Tactics of Conquest by Barry Malzberg. Spoiler alert! This review contains spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, stop watching immediately. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger! In the early 1960s, Malzberg worked for a couple of years as an investigator with New York's Department of Welfare, and for an even briefer period as a reimbursement agent for the New York State Department of Mental Health. In short, he was involved in social work in one of the world's largest cities and must have been exposed to dark facts of life most of us never have to face. Malzberg wanted to be a playwright and a novelist. He attended Syracuse University Graduate Studies in Creative Writing with these career goals in mind. He was awarded a couple of prestigious fellowships, but could not get anything published in popular literary magazines of the time. Fearing he would become an unpublished assistant professor of English, he left the university and went to work for the Scott Meredith Literary Agency. Like many writers struggling to establish themselves in the 1960s, Malzberg wrote a lot of erotic novels. These were published both under his real name and pseudonyms. We can assume this slumming in the seedier side of the literary world honed his style and generated a bit of income. But with his job at the Meredith Agency, it is doubtful that he had to write erotic fiction in order to make ends meet. It could be that, like Andrew J. Offutt and a few other well-known science fiction authors, he simply enjoyed writing erotic fiction. This sexually explicit writing would previously have been identified by a word beginning with the letter P, a word that can no longer be used on YouTube. Welcome to the algorithmic world of Big Brother in the 21st century. I have to say I was forewarned about the grim, joyless tone of Barry Malzberg's fiction. I watch a YouTube channel called Outlaw Bookseller, featuring Stephen E. Andrews. It's a great science fiction review channel, and I highly recommend it. It was Steve Andrews who clued me into Malzberg's fascination with sex, especially the darker, less pleasant varieties. Tactics of Conquest is only marginally a science fiction novel. With minor revisions, the story could have been a psychological, real-life drama occurring in the 20th century. The two main characters are Lewis and David, a pair of professional chess players. David is the narrator, and a very unreliable one. His rambling exposition quickly reveals his neurotic, self-absorbed tendency toward fabulation. Neither David nor Lewis have particularly distinguished careers as chess masters, that is, until they are selected by tentacled aliens to play a series of games that will determine the fate of the universe. David is given the opportunity to choose whether he will play on behalf of the forces of good or the forces of evil. His alien overlords explain that to them good and evil mean little or nothing, but the choice may provide a psychological boost to human participants. If David wins, one half of the universe's population will be exterminated. If Lewis wins, the other half will die. Early on, it is clear that David dislikes, even hates, Lewis. The enmity is mutual. Both of these players consider themselves infinitely better than their opponent. These are a couple of egotistical buffoons playing ridiculous mind games with one another as the fate of the universe hangs in the balance. But none of it rings true. There are frequent flashbacks during which we learn that David and Lewis grew up together in Brooklyn. Both gravitated toward chess at an early age. It is even admitted by David at one point that he realizes chess is an escape mechanism for bright weaklings who have no hope of facing the real world on its own terms. I had to think that Malzberg's novel was inspired by the highly publicized chess match between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. In 1972, the news carried tons of coverage about this historic match. It was widely recognized as a weird extension of the Cold War between the USA and the USSR. Nearing the end of the book, David reveals that Lewis raped him in an automobile wrecking yard when they were kids. Rape may not be the best word for it, as it is also implied that David sort of enjoyed the experience. Both boys are stricken with remorse immediately after this sexual encounter. David's fabulations are all over the place, so it's hard to say with any certainty, but it may also be the case that Lewis ended up in an automobile crushed for scrap. Or perhaps that was just a metaphor for David hiding the secret of his confused sexuality deep within himself. The only one who knows Malzberg's intentions for sure is Barry Malzberg himself, and he passed away in 2024. May he rest in peace. If you are into kinky psychological weirdness from the height of America's sexual revolution, this may be a good choice. Many stories like this one were published as the tidal wave of sexual liberation swept away social norms we had inherited from the Victorian era. Tactics of Conquest by Barry Malzberg is not the whimsical space opera it pretends to be.